It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to Out Loud and In Progress, where real talk lives, healing happens, and no part of the journey gets left behind. I'm Leyah Sunshine, and around here, we speak on love, grief, friendship, growth, and everything that life throws in the mix. This podcast ain't about being perfect. It's about being real, messy, magical, and still in motion. And sometimes we're going to do some laughing, some learning, but I promise to always be transparent with you and keep it real. So whether you're unfolding, unlearning, or just trying to hold it together, you do not have to do it alone. You can do it with me, Leyah Sunshine. So let's get into it.
Laughing through the lessons, growing real fast. No fake pop, just heart and finesse. Healing ain't linear, but we still say yes. We moving forward, flaws and all. Crying love and rising from the fall. This ain't polish, it's process, baby. But we keep showing up, even when it's shaky out. And in progress, so talking through the process. To press, with love to life, we unpacking the stress. We good vibes, big laughs, say less. What?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this space. It is an honor and a pleasure to be back with you guys again for episode 2. If this is your first time, thank you for listening, and go back and listen to episode 1. And if you did listen to episode 1, thank you for coming back for episode 2. I am ecstatic to be on this mic and doing this podcast. So the topic of this episode is hold me. Don't handle me. You'll see as we get into this topic how that corresponds with everything. So this episode is for anybody who wants to be better at love. Not just when it's easy, because when it's easy, everything's great. We're looking in each other's eyes, dreamy. Anything you do is great. You could cough, and I find it super alluring and attractive. But you got to also know how to love someone when it's hard. So this is for the person who shuts down when someone says, "You hurt me. What you did hurt me. What you said hurt me." This is for the person that also loves deeply, but maybe hasn't learned how to stay soft when things get uncomfortable. This is about being a safe space for your partner, not just a lover, not just a partner, but a person who can be trusted when the people you care about are in pain. And that's when it's the hardest to show up, especially if they're in pain because of something you may have done. So what does it mean to be in a safe space, or to be a safe space for someone? Being a safe space doesn't mean your love doesn't disappear when conflicts show up, okay? Because, you're going to still love this person regardless if you're having, some type of disagreement or conflict. It just means that your person, the person that you say you love, the person that you want to protect, the person that you want to keep safe, can bring up their pain. They can bring up their truth. They can bring up whatever fears that they may have. And they can trust that you won't turn it into a courtroom where they're being judged, or a shutdown or a showdown just because they've expressed to you their pain or their truth or their fear. Sometimes you can't always fix things when your partner comes to you with something that may have hurt them. And it doesn't mean either that you'll always have the right answer. But what's more important than all of that is just making them feel safe to be real, to be themselves, to express that, to be fully there with you and transparent with you, even when that reality is uncomfortable for you. Because, of course, again, you don't want to hurt that person. You may have not intentionally meant to hurt that person, but how you show up is very important. So let's talk a little bit about why we shut down. Because let's be honest, some of us weren't raised to hold emotional truth. Some of us weren't raised to be able to express ourselves. And even if we did express ourselves, it was met with some sort of negativity. Oh, why are you so soft? Oh, you should man up. Or, why are you so sensitive? And then on the other hand, we were raised on don't talk back, or suck it up, buttercup, something like that. So when someone says to you, you hurt me, it hits the ego and not the empathy. The ego and not the empathy. So it's like your ego in you is like, oh, goodness, I've hurt this person. Why are they reacting that way? They shouldn't react that way. But you should turn on your empathy, turn on your heart, and just listen. Because again, yes, you may have not meant to intentionally hurt that person, but they are hurt. And it's important just to listen and show empathy. Did you know that guilt and shame makes us defensive? So when you feel guilty about hurting the other person, you really didn't mean to hurt the other person, or you feel bad that you've hurt this person, it makes us put up a defense or a wall and not listen to them and shut them out. When you hear, you hurt me, you translate it into you're a bad person. And that totally makes sense. Just because you've hurt someone, it does not make you a bad person. They've just expressed to you just something that has hurt them, and that's okay. It does not mean you are a bad person. It means that, okay, now I need to listen to how I've hurt them and do better in the future. But those two things aren't the same. You hurt me and you're a bad person. They aren't the same. Accountability doesn't mean self-hate, right? That you hate yourself. It just means that you care enough to grow. That's what the other person wants to see. When they say, hey, what you've done or what you said, that hurt. They just want to see you take accountability for that. They want to see, that you could say, I apologize. I want to do better. How can we do better together? You just don't know. That means so much, especially if the person is hurting, to know that you're there and you're listening. So let's get into this. Let's talk about the real damage of the other person not feeling safe. When people feel unsafe, they stop bringing things up. And when they stop bringing things up, that's when your connection dies. And it will die slowly and quietly. You do not want your partner, significant other, to feel unsafe with you. That is the worst feeling ever, that you cannot be fully yourself and express yourself in a positive way. And I also would like to bring this up too, because I don't think I covered this. It's okay for them to bring up their hurt, but I do believe 1,000% that they should bring that up in a nice way, that they're not saying hurtful things to you. They should always come from the perspective of, when this happened, this is how I felt. It should never be an attack on you. And if that's the case, that's something that they need to work on. But if they come to you and just simply say, hey, when this happened, this is how I felt, then you should be able to listen to that. So so I just wanted to, put that in there, because I do understand that sometimes it may not come across in that way. And then that causes the person to, the other person to be negative as well. But definitely you don't want your connection to die slow. You want it to continue to grow and grow together. So once that connection dies and they stop feeling safe, they start shrinking themselves, and then they start walking on eggshells and like, oh, should I mention this? Should I not mention this? And then once they start holding all of that in, it just doesn't become a great space for them. They can't grow. They can't express themselves. And then sometimes they'll say, it's fine. And then they start pulling away. Whenever you hear it's fine a lot, that's more than likely because maybe they've tried to bring something up in the past and, the other person wasn't listening or receptive to it. And then they'll just start pulling away emotionally. And that's how distance starts. Not with yelling, but with silence. So you definitely don't want to get in this position where the other person just doesn't feel safe bringing something up that may have hurt or offended them. So how can you be a safe space, even when it's hard? Here's what being a safe space actually looks like. Not in theory, but in practice. Okay? So what you need to do first, pause before you respond. Don't respond with the first thing that comes to mind. Just pause. Then then take a breath. Then respond. Listen. And I cannot stress this enough. Listen without cutting them off. Let them get everything out that they need to. And this is like one of the most important things, because I feel like pausing is number one and taking a breath. But this would be the next one for me. Validate their feelings. Even when it wasn't your intention. I've said this before in my relationships. Intention is different from impact. I'll say that again. Intention is way different than impact. You could have had the best intentions for what you may have said and what you may have done. But the result of it, or the impact, did not land the way you expected it. So even if it wasn't your intention and your impact was totally different than what you perceived, you should still validate their feelings. You should still say, I'm sorry. I did not mean to hurt you. Not, I'm sorry if I hurt you, because it's evident you did because they told you, or either you could tell in their body language or their expressions. So you don't have to say, if I hurt you, you did. Just validate that. Don't center your guilt. Center their pain. Oh, snaps. It's so easy because you're in that guilty phase because you feel bad that you hurt them, right? And then you start getting into your guilt and you start swimming and sinking in your guilt. Take a breath. Instead of doing that, sure, you feel guilty. But if that's the case,
Riley Herbst from 2311 Racing here, and you know what grinds my gears? Waiting for coffee. But instead of counting frappes and lattes, I fire up Chumba Casino. No apps, no fuss, just fun social casino games to pass the time. By the time my coffee's ready,
Order for Riley.
I've already taken a few victory laps. Next time you're stuck waiting, make it entertaining. Play for free at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
feel bad about their pain and make that the center of the conversation. You can also do things like say, "Thank you for telling me that. I didn't realize that. I want to understand. Help me understand." Those things would instantly calm me, at least. If I've expressed something that hurt me and they say, "Thank you for telling me that." Oh man, I would instantly just feel so freaking safe. And if they say, "I didn't realize I hurt you." Oh, thank you. And this is the kicker. This would make me just super happy. I want to understand. I want to understand your feelings. That would definitely make me feel secure and safe. And then, after all of that is said and done, you took your breath, you've listened without cutting off, you validated them, you've centered their pain, and then you've said those key words, you want to understand, you didn't realize. Then, and you've had that conversation, then you can just follow up later. And not just with words, right? Because you should have been conversating and talking throughout this whole situation, but with action. Because what's important is that they see now that you've actually listened and now you're applying those things. So I know this is an old expression, but action speaks louder than words will ever, because somebody can say a whole bunch of things, but their actions do not line up. I'm a type of person that I look at actions and not words. So definitely make sure that your words and your follow-up is also in action. So when you're the one that hurt them, what do? How do you handle it? So this is the part where people just get stuck, because the moment you realize you hurt someone you love, your instinct is to either shut down or start defending yourself. Stop before you do that. And instead say, "That wasn't my intention, but I see how that landed." Or you can say something like, "I don't want to do that again. How can I show up better?" And we talked about that, in a few sentences ago. These two things, again, are key. Intention is different from impact. Let that person know, "I don't want to do this again. So how can I show up for you? How can I be better for you? How can I help you feel safe, comforted? How can I help you feel that you can talk to me about anything?" Because that's what a partner is supposed to be, right? Someone that you can talk to about anything. And, we maybe can cover this in another podcast, but I totally believe if you're with someone and this is your romantic partner, husband, wife, whatever the case may be, I feel like you should be able to talk about anything with this person without judgment. That's how I live my life. If I can't do that with my partner, then I don't want any parts of it. I don't want to have to go and say, "Oh, well, I'm going to talk to my friend and I can't talk to my husband about, something that's really, within me and bothering me." Now, of course, I may have people that I'm a sounding board with, but I definitely always will consider my partner that person that I can lean on, depend on, and that's my friend, and knows me inside and out, knows my flaws, know what makes me tick. Because if you don't share those things with that person, are you really being you? Are you really being authentically you? I want someone to love me in all of my authenticity, not just the parts that I want to show them, But we can definitely talk about that in another podcast. That's a good topic. So, when in this section, your ego might want to explain, but your partner needs to feel held first, supported first, before you go into your explanation. So let's take a moment to reflect on all of this. I want you guys to ask yourself, okay? Ask yourself this truthfully as I'm speaking. Am I safe to come to when my people are hurting? Do I make a space for their pain? Or do I make it about mine? Do I love them well when they're vulnerable? Or only when they're easy to love? I'm going to let you guys sit with that. And if you answer no to any of these things, I invite you to show up differently for your partner. I encourage you to be that safe space when they're hurting. I also encourage you to make space for them when they're in pain. And definitely don't make it about yourself. And I definitely encourage you to love them when they're at their most vulnerable. Because I promise when you love a person when they're at their most vulnerable, that makes for a love affair out of this world. If a person can feel love in their vulnerability, you have opened up a new level of love, trust, honesty that you would never experience before. So being safe, guys, is not a... So being a safe space is definitely not about being perfect. It's about staying soft when everything in you wants to shut down. It's about holding someone and definitely not just handling them. Because love lives in the way we stay, especially when things are not easy. Guys, I just want to encourage you to love in a different way. I want to encourage you to listen and not react. I want to encourage you to take a breath before you say something. I want to encourage you to support your loved ones, your partner, your spouse in a different way. And I promise you guys, you will see another part of your relationship that you have never tapped into before. So remember, you want to hold them, not handle them. All right, guys, it's been my sincerest pleasure. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next Friday. Bye. Thank you for listening to Out Loud and In Progress with Leyah Sunshine. If you enjoyed our podcast, please follow us on all social media platforms under Out Loud and In Progress. If you would like to make contact with us, you can email us at outloudandinprogress@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening. Hope this podcast touched you in some way, shape, or form, and we will see you on the next podcast.